As you know, the schedule's up. Who all is already registered? Okay.
Man.
Loser.
I registered for some.
Anything left?
Drop now. I registered for all the ones that I might want.
Yes, I did
to
that
make sure I
too.
have them.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Now I drop.
Now let's think about it.
I registered for classes at like 8:05.
Oh, yeah, no.
Monday morning.
I was
already
7:58. I was like, let's go.
They will. Some of these will fill up rapidly.
Yeah, I
as
went
you
and
might have
looked
already
at
seen.
all the ones that I thought would interest me, and I figure I can drop what I need to.
Say what, Greg?
The class I wanted to take from you is already full.
For me?
The which one is it? The adolescent literature?
It's already
full.
What?
Oh, the online one, baby, full.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll let you. Just send me an email and I'll get you in.
Oh snap! If I have to change mine from face to face to in person,
Yeah.
Because right now I'm in the face to face class. I have to change it.
Oh, that's why I had low enrollment in that one section. Okay, never mind. That's funny. Yeah, indeed.
To register for 5.9, to register for 5.95, I don't think that I could yet.
Right, we have
But
to
that's
get
the only
admin approval.
place. Yeah,
Well, you won't have any trouble. Are you wanting to do it for fall?
yeah.
I mean,
It don't let you register.
no, because you have to get permission from me. And how many hours do you have right now?
She's graduating in December.
Like that's gonna be my only class in December.
Okay, you should be able to register. Just send me an email and I'll make sure. And what are you registered for during the summer?
Academic discourse with you and
Justice?
yeah, issues in literacy.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what I said at first. I have to look.
Oh, we're getting there together? Yeah.
Well, see, that's one of the ones I signed up for summer one. I'm either doing that one or picture book, so I just like.
I'm doing, because I think yours is summer 2. Academic, is that summer 1 or
Oh.
summer 2? I think
Summer 2,
academic-
academics
I knew I wanted them to
discourses.
be separate, and I just did it like that.
Yeah, academic discourse is summer 2. And let me explain what academic discourse is, and that's for all of those.
Because
It's
I
online.
That one.
Hmm.
I thought about that.
I like what it said. That's why I registered for it.
Yeah, it's to help students write in a clean, tight, with clean, tight academic prose that's accessible, that's smart, and I help you clean it up to move your work along. And I just got the book today, and I have to look at it, but Prior's English.
Okay, to clarity this time.
I love it.
He's very dry and witty. And I have to look at it. Let me see if I can interview. There it is. Okay. So this will, it says comedy. But from what I listened to, it sounded really, really good. Oh, I don't want to purchase the book. I want to hear it. Listen. All right.
I'm Terry Gross. My guest, Benjamin Dreyer, was recently described in the Washington Post as the unofficial language guru on Twitter. Dreyer's work home is the book publisher Random House, where he's a vice president, executive managing editor, and copy chief. He gets the final say over questions related to grammar, style, and clarity at that publishing house. He's been the copy editor for books by such authors as Michael Chabon, E.L. Doctorow, Janet Ivanovich, Michael Pollan, Frank Rich, Isabella Rossellini, Richard Russo, and Calvin Trillin. Now he's sharing his advice in his new, humbly titled book, Dreyer's English, An Utterly Correct Guide to Clarity and Style. Benjamin Dreyer, welcome to Fresh Air. First, let's start with the subtitle of your book, An Utterly Correct Guide to Clarity and Style. Let's establish that you're trying you're succeeding in being funny with that. You don't mean it as being truly, utterly correct. Because style is in some ways pretty subjective, isn't it?
Yes, and I do mean to be funny, and I like to think that there's a bit of a wink contained in the subtitle, that it's a little bit of a joke, and let's just start off with the notion that we're all in on it. Style is indeed extremely subjective. I think that if there's one point I am trying to make in the book, that any notions of what constitutes correctness or any notion of what constitutes right versus wrong, whatever those things might possibly be, those are all subsumed to the notion of A, clarity, and B, just the joy of writing. And everything is about the clarity and everything is about the joy. So you have to make all those notions of what's correct work for you or not work for you, as the case may be.
So I heard you say that when you started writing this book, the writing was putting you to sleep, and you finally realized you should write in your Twitter voice, which was funny and concise and personal and chatty. I was expecting you to criticize Twitter for avoiding the rules of grammar, but that's where you found your voice.
It is where I found my voice, and when you have to contend with only having 140 characters to move around in, and then eventually, of course, to have 280 characters to move around in, you have to make your point, you have to make it succinctly, and if you're me and you're trying to engage people, you have to sort of also try to be funny. You have to make people want to read your tweet as opposed to going and reading somebody else's tweet.
So some advice you gave on Twitter this week, which you also give in the opening of your book, is avoid this list of words for a week. Very, rather, really, as in that was really terrific. Quite, in fact, just, so don't start a sentence with so. Pretty.
Actually, I don't necessarily mean that so. Though
which
we can
so do you
with that. I mean it's so big, so smart.
Okay.
So this, so that.
Okay. Avoid pretty as in that was pretty tedious, surely.
Yes.
And that said, I think maybe I shouldn't use those words. So you describe these as WAN, W-A-N, WAN intensifiers and throat clearers. So I'm pretty sure you've been listening to me on Fresh Air making notes of the weed words that I overuse, because that's my partial list of words that I use too much. But I guess I'm not alone. So maybe it's not just me you've been listening to. So tell us your objections to these words.
First, I want to emphasize that my job is, if I'm going to be running around policing things, I'm there to police written prose. I'm happily not there to govern how people speak, and that includes me. And if you and I both become self-conscious at the extent to which either one of us is using the word very right now, we're going to grind to a complete halt. Because I'm already sort of, I can hear myself and I'm kind of counting them. And so I'm just going to sort of let that go so that we can have a conversation. I do think that on paper, they're essentially a waste of space. And
that's what I talked to you, I think, about that goo and revving your engine. That's what he's talking about. We just use different metaphors for that. So discourse, if you have a paper that you really like and would like to clean it up to send out for publication, you'll get to work on that. If you want to write a piece for publication, drawing off a shorter paper or something like that, you get to at least start on that. So we'll be looking at the way in which academics write. We'll critique those, some of those, because there are a lot of academics who are wretched at writing, quite frankly. Oh, I used quite. And frankly is probably not one of those good words either.
I said it was written discourse.
Yes.
I'll give you a
Yeah.
state.
You're okay.
Except I'm pretty careful about my spoken discourse as well. When I make a grammatical error, I usually back up and try to make it right, or say, I don't know which one it is, and pick another word. I pretty much write and talk the same way. That's not always been the case. It is precision of language, Jonas. And so we'll look at what makes a sentence pop, what makes an introduction pop, what makes something memorable, and how to create those things in your own work. And this book should be, I think it'll be pretty humorous and not a hard read. But like I said, I'm looking at it. So that would if I like it, then that's the book that we'll use. Otherwise, we won't use a book, I don't think. But I'll see what that looks like. If you're interested in the children's literature ideology, language and ideology, I've got this syllabus almost written for that. So I will send that along. No books for that. I will provide everything, or you will have access it through it, access to texts online and through databases. So it's a cheap class because, yeah, it's actually a linguistics course, but I've taken lots of linguistics courses, most of them linguistics courses in my shady past. I don't teach linguistics courses, but this is a linguistics topic. It is basically critical discourse analysis. And so we'll be examining how words, how ideas, how texts convey ideology. And part of it, that was part of my graduate program, as language had to be, I don't know how many hours I had to have in language/linguistics. Quite a few, if I recall. And one was a cornerstone course for 4 hours for doctoral students only. At least one of them was. So I do have that background, and the texts that I use, you will see that linguists use them as well. And we're all saying the same thing, that language conveys ideology, and this is how it does it. And Peter Hollindale says that there are 3 levels of ideology. There's one that is the surface of a text, like the obvious message we're supposed to get. Take, for instance, those of you who know about the rainbow fish, the obvious message is we're supposed to share. The second level is the unexamined assumptions that are typically kind of part of a cultural thing that, well, here. So if you're interested in getting an early syllabus, it will not be complete. If you're interested in that, email me and I'll get it to you. Okay, where did I put it? I put it in what? Oh, is that, how did that happen?
There's another one right below that one.
Oh, that's right, that's right. I remember doing that now. And you can see I'm already gathering up quite a bit of scholarship. He says the first is the conspicuous, overt, and generally intended surface ideology. Individuals, writers, unexamined assumptions, passive ideology. So alphabet books are inherently ideological because they convey the ideology that we need to learn to read. And nobody really thinks about that. It's just part of how we live in the world. And sometimes that passive can seep over into the third level of ideology, which is conveyed through actual, how words on an individual level sometimes work. But so, for instance, in the 50s, it would be pretty typical for a picture book to present a normal, white, middle class, mother and father, children, maybe a dog, maybe a cat, that kind of image. And the author wouldn't think of including diverse characters, regardless of what diverse, and how one speaks of diversity. So they're not going to be lesbian partnerships, they're kids with different abilities, unless they're really, really trying to convey something specific on those. It's just not part of the literature. So, and the third level is, as I said, it can be a challenge to identify, but it's the power of ideology inscribed within the words. So we read it reminds us of what is correct, commonsensical, or natural. And so my example is, I'm sure you know words that are particularly laden with ideology. Sometimes they're instantly recognizable because they are taboo, but it's not always that obvious, and it does change depending on the time period, because words don't stay stagnant. They continuously move, and gather meanings along the way. It's like the woman who used to walk around on the streets with a shopping cart and just pouring stuff in. Yeah, and that's kind of how words work. And so we'll be talking about that, and all of it will be coming from picture books that I'll provide or that are available online for free. Text that I'm going to upload to D2L, and folk and fairy tales, because they're really loaded.
Oh, yeah.
So to give you an example, the Grimm brothers, when they went around supposedly collecting the tales of the folk tales, Vogue, like Volkswagen, they originally started with Hansel and Gretel, with the woman being a mother, the mother, not a step mother, the mother. But that eventually changed because they wanted to present a specific image to the German people, and it was not a mother being really wicked and awful and abandoning her children. So you can kind of see how that transformation. We'll be talking a little bit about translation, what happens in translation, and I don't know that. We'll be discovering that together, but there's some articles that we'll be able to read. So I think the assignment will response to scholarship, discussion boards, response to primary text, that is picture books, fairy tales, whatever I find. 6 annotated bib entries, 2 assignments consisting of 3 entries each. Other assignments as needed, and a textual analysis of some kind of text where you reveal the levels of ideology in it. And you'll know I go back and forth between ideology and ideology. I just do. I don't know why. Because I'm confused.
And this will be doable, like if we're working full time too.
All the texts are short. I mean, and the scholarship is going to be long, but you think about it. The three annotated bib entries will be due on the second Monday, and the next 3 will be due on the 3rd Monday. I think that's how it works
So
out.
is this 3 weeks then?
I think it's 5. Or no, it's 3.5. It's 3.5.
I was like,
No, no. So I just tossed in other assignments as needed because just a placeholder. I don't anticipate any more. The last assignment will be the textual analysis. Like I said, I'll either provide it or the students can find one that they think is rich. And unpack it. Dr. Rogenkamp's literary genres will be in summer 2 is literary journalism, which It's one of my favorite genres, actually. Oh, actually, I hate that. I did it. I said actually, and I'm trying to break myself.
You have rubber bands so you can snap.
So that's it. I am not going to be hell on wheels. It's 3.5 weeks. Pardon me. I can only do so much, and you can only do so much. I can do more than you can, but I have more of you. So, if you have any questions, if you want the syllabus, just email me and I'll provide it for you. But it is a draft. Recognize that.
Right.
So that's a start on things. Do you want to know anything else about what's coming up?
What about your other class? The one in summer one? The
Picture books? Yeah. Yeah, that's one I've taught numerous times, and some of them I'll provide, some of them you'll have to purchase. I'm very conscious though of the price of books and picture books especially.
Because they can get surprisingly expensive.
Oh yeah, they surely can.
You're like, it's only like 10 pages long. Why are you costing me $15?
And some of you will have heard before because I'll do the Hansel and Gretel story, the one by Brown, as opposed to the one by I think it's the Grimm brothers. Little Red Riding Hood and variations on that, because we've got the quote original, but there is no such thing as original text for that, and then it goes into picture books. So you'll see part of that. I don't know what the graphic narrative will be yet. I haven't. If anybody has a suggestion, any favorite graphic narratives? Anybody?
Dark Knight Returns.
For kids?
Just kidding.
We never did get to Wrinkle in Time last semester.
Oh, that's right.
We don't need you.
Or you can.
Well, okay then, aren't you? You didn't like it?
I don't really like.
No,
the
I was
book
so
or-
bored.
I love
Yeah.
I love the Wrinkle in Time book.
Yeah.
So,
So bored. Okay.
What about mouse?
It's a different type of stuff.
We could do mouse. And I've done American Born Chinese before.
man, as far as my kids go, they read a lot of the Pokemon graphic.
Persepolis is good too.
I've done Persepolis, yeah.
I thought we was thinking way younger, so that's why I didn't.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably for,
Like the picture book age.
well, from probably ages 10, because the book, or the class title is Picture Books, Graphic Narratives, and the Art of Illustration. And it's a study of children's literature, and I use that very broadly. As some
Well,
of
I
you
did
know.
just read a couple of really good Doctor Who graphic novels. So.
Really? All right.
Took them up at the library. They're expanding their graphic novels section in Greenville.
Okay. All right. I'll take a look at that.
Has anybody in here ever read Dark Knight Returns? Frank Miller? Graphic novel?
Anyone that did this.
You don't have to be a Batman fan to enjoy this
So I just-
story.
Ooh, I love Batman. We should do that one.
It's a good one.
It's that weird noise again.
Didn't we decide it's online? Can you guys hear that sound? That.
She said she could hear it.
I can hear it vaguely in the background. I thought it was coming from y'all.
So it was,
Yeah.
It's the ghost. All right, so now you have that. You have a description of my courses. I'm working hard to make
Could we
sure that.
Would you mind maybe just scrolling down the list of what's on for summer? The upcoming summer?
Summer one?
Is it summer one?
I'll go with summer one
Yeah.
first because it's first.
They all full?
Oh,
Oh,
no.
no, there's,
no,
there's,
then you.
Those are undergrad though.
oh, yeah, those
Yeah,
are
there's
undergrad
501.
classes.
Okay, so there's 14. Oh, since when did they give me 24 on that?
I didn't realize it was that many in there either.
It's web-based, I guess.
What the hell?
Apparently no one's working on their dissertation in summer one.
It's only 3.5.
24 or 18? And that one's 24. Well, that's because that's linguistics and they do crazy things. That's 24. No, that's
Studies
450.
in American Narratives, is
That's-
that the?
It's an undergrad.
journal? Oh.
Mm-mm.
Oh, I see, it's a 4.
No,
No, hers
So
is
it's 500 and above?
that's literary genres in summer
That's
too.
in summer too.
Yeah, that's summer 2. So here, that's summer 1. There's
And are
2.
there, like, can we find the dates of what summer one, and like,
It's right
It's
here.
on there
Oh,
already.
it's on
6-3
oh, I
through
didn't
7-3.
7-3.
this. Okay, thank you.
I always look when I register. I try to figure out if it's before or after the holiday.
Yeah, usually you get 4th of July off.
4th of July is usually the end.
Last year, they gave me undergrad for some of the classes.
Yeah.
I guess they
this-
just started them later, but it was.
Yeah, this is July 3. So the instructors have to work to get the grades in time on 4th of July. All right, so there's that.
Probably a month.
Summer 2 is literary genres.
I'm torn between literary genres and your academic discourse. I can't think.
Well, you'll figure it out.
Both of those things.
2019. Let's see what my. So 3 and 10.
All right, girl.
I do need to get some more in that face-to-face. So let's see what
I'm in
happens.
there, I'm in there.
Okay.
I think I already took that one. That's why I didn't take it.
Yeah, I'm signed up for the face-to-face currently. We'll see how
And
it
Alex, you're in there too, right?
Cause I thought about
I
that
hope
one,
it's
and
the
I'm
face-to-face
pretty sure that's what I took that first semester. Cause has it been offered before? Is it
Oh, yeah, we offer it every
fall?
No.
other fall.
Then yeah, I took it that first time it was offered, I think. Because I thought about that too.
Yeah. So I've got 13 students, and we can make arrangements for you.
Perfect, thank you. I'd appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
I will happily waddle in the classroom until after Thanksgiving.
That sounds good. So sign up for the face-to-face, and then you can join
As
us.
soon as I pop out a kid, I'll join you online.
If you didn't figure it out.
I'm pregnant.
Yep, Shay is preggers. That's the British way of saying it.
Yep, that's, yep.
It is.
It was very much a, oh, no.
Who's presenting today?
I can present,
You'll be
I have
able
a
to?
presentation, a brief
Okay.
one.
All right. Anybody else? Who's already presented? Oh. If I haven't recorded those scores, I need to. Anybody online? Gregory, you're coming in for yours, aren't you?
No, ma'am, I'm coming in next Wednesday.
Right. Yeah, well, that's what I said. You're coming in for yours.
Yes, ma'am.
So Greg will present next week and I'll present next week.
Mm-hmm. And maybe somebody else. Depends. Let's switch over. And let me look quickly at what we're going to be doing. I almost forgot how to navigate this thing. It's been so long. I tried so hard when I was at Mom and Dad's to do the work,
You did just fine.
but the television, they don't have cable, and they don't have internet, and they don't have dish. So they watch regular channels that they pick
Like
up,
antenna.
try to pick up with a little antenna inside. So the way that we watch television at Mom and Dad's is we'll be in the midst of a show and it'll go along for maybe 30 seconds and then it'll go no signal for 5 seconds and it'll come back on for maybe a minute and then it'll go no signal for, and keep in mind my parents are hard of hearing.
Oh, goodness.
So we're all shouting over a very loud television whenever we want to talk. I just needed to provide some levity. And I plugged in some white noise, and that helped a lot, but it was too much. It was too much.
Should gift them a dish or something.
Yeah, yeah. I would if I could afford it.
Okay.
Okay, so where are we? We are on, coming up.
This is week 10.
Geez, can you believe that?
Nope.
Okay, so next week we'll have more research presentations and then I'll be talking about some different methodologies as well. And talking about what you've posted, and we have a lot. There is not going to be any extra time. Not by the time we do all the things that we do.
Gotcha.
Questions? Any questions online? My streamers? My Zoomers? Okay, very good.
I can present next week too, if there's time, and that's what it's dedicated for.
That'd be okay. Yeah, because we've got plenty to go over, because we need to go over the methodologies.
I just wanted to have it ready, because originally I planned on doing it earlier, but
Okay, I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
On week 12, it says due at noon, and the methodology is bibliographic essay. Is that correct? Because that would be the week after next.
it is the week after next.
No, but
I thought that was gonna be like
The
the
final project.
You
I
know,
thought the final was an
Yeah.
annotated bid.
No, I thought the annotated bib was there and then the final was.
Oh, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, because see,
Besides that,
That's why I looked, because I was like, I thought we talked about this.
you know the funny
We
thing?
did, and I didn't get it changed over
Okay.
on this
I
side.
just wanted to clarify, because I was about to have an heart attack.
Now, wait a minute. The final time.
When I looked
So
at,
was just like,
Yeah. What? No, that's not it.
when I look at it online, through this, like my browser on my PC, that's what I saw, but when I look at it on my phone, it shows the,
The correct one.
I guess, I'm glad that it's the correct one.
Because I was like, that doesn't look right.
Because that's what I just asked. I said,
That's what she.
I know, that's why.
I said, now, wait a minute.
We're all like, oh crap.
Yeah, no, that's not right.
Okay, perfect.
It's supposed to be the annotated bib.
Okay.
Now, which one am I in? I'm in blended. Let's see if I have it right in web.
Yeah, see on the calendar, it has upcoming events, annotated bibliography due on the 9th.
So pay attention to the
And
calendar.
then the bibliographic essay due on May 6th. There's a search assignment in between.
Yeah, that one says annotated bib.
Yeah, so I just have to make yours match what's on with the web. So I got half of it
I don't know why I'm
managed.
saying that.
So yeah, no worries.
I tell you what, my nerves, they just can't handle stuff.
We really need to get you on some Prozac or
I probably
Xanax or
need
something.
That's how I deal with my mom and dad.
Grad school, my second round of grad school drove me to.
That's how I deal with my kids.
Seriously.
I take a combination anti-anxiety and depression med. It's wonderful.
Yeah. When mom gets on my nerves, I just go and pop one so that I can deal. Sad, isn't it?
It's become the norm. My mom did the same thing when my dad was sick, so don't feel bad.
Yeah. And my mom's on the medication now. So it's like, oh, wow, a medicated family. Hallelujah.
But you know, it's one of those things. Did you take your medication today?
I know.
I think you might need to check.
All right, so let's go through web. I'm going back to the web, which is where I was. And I'm going to,
That's what I'm seeing. It says upcoming events.
For real. I just have to remember, just breathe.
Just breathe.
Oh, you'll miss it when you're gone.
I won't.
Oh, I
I
will.
can promise you.
I know I
I
will.
like
That's how I came back. I'm like,
you know what? As much as I love teaching, as much as I love my job, when I'm retired, I am happy to be retired.
to not do jack. That's gonna be me too.
Well, I'll still do jack, but it'll just be my own jack.
Right.
That did not quite come out.
I was just like, just know that I was looking at you waiting for the automatic.
Well, we all know it's Dr. Stewart there in her retirement.
Did you see
She won't need medication anymore.
I'm probably blushing now.
She's gonna treat her hysteria.
All right, this is.
Greg's fan himself.
You gotta get that one. That was good.
Oh, that's great. That's medication.
It is. It just is.
I think we lost somebody after that. I wasn't alone.
Oh, no, Abigail.
They're storming out.
Overdosed.
I think she's still there. The numbers are the same. Maybe.
No, it was at 3.
Was it?
What?
Oh, but
Maybe she
it was
Abigail.
at 1 on the other side. She's there.
Oh,
She's just off her.
Jesus, I-
Cause that
I have
happened.
to help my dad, but I'm still here.
Okay. All right, so Greg, we're going to look at yours. And you have planned on methodology. You're using gender criticism, and you're narrowing it down to Western fiction novels. And I love Western fiction, by the way. And I'm working on some of it.
I may be shooting in the dark. I'm having a really tough time. That's what I would like to do, but findings, I guess people don't really put a lot of scholarly work into the Western fiction, so I'm struggling a little bit.
There actually is quite a bit,
Is there maybe
but it's not going to be under feminism. You would call it more of cultural studies.
Gotcha. Yes, ma'am.
So there is a scholar, very good scholar. What am I looking for? Library, that's what I'm going.
I don't remember if you was in there. That's why they want to put. You watched the film series. Did you ever watch Home Improvement? I want to go some.
That was the greatest show.
Just start like.
That's all. That's all.
I had all the JTV posters on my wall.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bet he spells his name with 2 M's. I bet he does. Nope, but not that way. No. All right, here we go.
Might go back to your pages.
Yeah.
I'm going back to my stuff. Because I've got a pretty good, list. What am I looking for? I'm looking for academic, and then I'm going to go. Westerns. All right, so here, let's make it bigger. One of the biggest people, I think, yes, is, no, he's not the biggest one, but there's Forrest G. Robinson, who writes on the Virginian.
Denning.
Denning, not M's. So Denning, Mechanic Accents, Dime Novels, and Working Class Culture. That's very much a historical Marxist criticism, because he's talking about the working class. Wendy Pierce Miller, Domesticating the Cowboy. And some of these you might not be able to get because they're not available in our library. And if that's the case, then just email me and I've got an electronic copy because I've gotten this stuff. Henry Nash Smith is one of the biggest original or earlier cultural studies. It provides that examination. The Virgin Land, the American West, and Symbol as Myth. And Daniel Warden, Masculinity for the Million, Gender in Dime Novel Westerns. So that's going to give you a start, I think.
That's very helpful.
Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
So yeah, what you're going to want to focus on probably is cultural studies. You'll need to provide a definition of what you mean by cultural studies. And Denny might be the one who can do that. I'm not sure. Do some searching and see what you find out. And then once you get from that position, you can work yourself into cultural studies and the Western.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'd limit it to novels, because there's a lot out there on film too. Or if you want to do film, limit it to one or the other.
Yeah, I like the novels, I think, best.
Yeah,
I'm used to reading the novels.
they're pretty fascinating. I love them. So there's that. Yay, I helped somebody. I think I've helped a lot of people today.
Yes.
You helped me a lot today. Thank you.
I missed you over spring break though. Whenever I was like hyperventilating in my office. She's like, I emailed her and she hasn't messaged me back. I'm like, I know she doesn't have internet, but and she's like, but it's fine. You're fine. Like,
This isn't even a formal proposal.
chill out. It's true. It's having a moment.
She was. It was.
Okay. Abigail, what do you mean by didactic methodology? Are you there? Abigail?
She's there, because the numbers haven't changed.
I'm sorry.
I thought she was helping somebody.
So she's up her dad.
Oh, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so help us understand what do you mean by didactic methodology?
I want to look at the morality methodology, and that's just the word they use, so I'm kind of going off that.
Wow, I'm didactic studies. I think it's probably going to be more again of a cultural studies, because if you're looking at didacticism. So tell me this, if you were going to use this methodology, what would be the focus of your studies?
Well,
What would you apply to?
from what I've found so far, it's mostly ancient Greek that they wrote out, so I guess I would have to stick with that.
Does anybody use it currently?
There are some Latin works that they've looked at. I think it's Spanish authors, but I'm not sure.
I think you're going to run into trouble.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a huge challenge. Because there, as far as I can tell, there really isn't that kind of methodology. Can you, what did, efficient functioning of the education process? I don't think this is the way you want to go.
No.
Yeah. All right, so tell me again what it is you think that you'd like to use, if you were going to use some, what do you want to know? Let's start that way.
Well, when I started out, I just wanted to see how morality kind of factored in. And then as I started looking for sources, most of it was centered around ancient Greek work and how that was mostly morality literature. So I think if I was to do it now, I would focus on what the morality in ancient Greek literature.
But that's not okay, so that wouldn't, you'd have to have a didactic methodology isn't really a methodology for what we talk about. If it would go to, it probably go more to rhetorical studies or toward, it'd be hard to do. What's your area? What are you going to what are you going to write your dissertation on? I mean, broadly.
I haven't had anything nailed down, but I'd like to do something about Akkadian literature or Akkadian authors.
Akkadian authors, such as?
Chopin, Kate Chopin.
Okay, I gotcha. All right, well, if you were to do that, you would probably use either cultural studies or material feminism or a form of feminism.
Okay.
Material feminism might be a route for you to think about. I don't know what kind of lens you're thinking about using as to looking through that, but let me see what I can find about material feminism. So we go to Google.
I don't remember what I did for Google. It actually just been
Encyclopedia.
videos.
We didn't find out as many things.
Oh man.
They did just.
Ask Jeeves.
Right?
Oh yeah, I remember.
I remember
Ask
Ask
Jeeves never knew anything.
No, I know. Jeeves didn't know.
It wasn't called Answer Jeeves.
Basically, a theoretical framework for studying feminist knowledge, class, divisions of labor, state, government power, economic power, gender, identity, racial identity. So it's the material conditions that shape a culture and the people in the culture, and that includes the women experiencing that culture. So, for instance, not being able to own property would be a material condition that a material feminist would be interested in, or the books that they're reading, or voting. Alongside that would be how the males are responding to females. So that, and the conditions that make them respond to females in a certain way. So that probably would be one of your better options, but I want this work to be useful for you. Is that something that sounds interesting or useful?
I'll have to look into it more, get something really nailed down, but yeah, it sounds like a really good place to start.
Or what do you want to know about these Akkadian authors?
Well, there's not really a lot of research on them to begin with, so I'm not really sure. I'm just kind of looking into it right now.
Okay.
I suppose
Okay.
just their influence.
You suppose what?
I suppose just their influence. That's their one section, just the cultural part of it.
Okay, their influence on whom?
Just on literature in general.
Okay. there's reception theory, but I'm really not crazy about reception theory. It's kind of like reader response, because who knows how anyone is going to receive a text.
Yeah.
You could think the majority will respond this way or potentially respond this way. So that you run into some problems with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cultural studies probably, or historical material feminism might work for you. So give it some thought and we'll talk more about it.
Okay.
Okay? Did you like the way I just absolutely set that up?
Oh, yeah.
All right, plan to examine feminist dystopian fiction. That's not a methodology. Feminism is a methodology, but feminist dystopian fiction is a focus of study, not a methodology. So that's for Caitlin. So I'm going to guess you can look at the work produced on Handmaid's Tale, as you know, and Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. She's a Black author who, yes?
Hey, this is the road you're going down. C.L. Moore and Tiptree also have a lot on them. C.L. Moore and James Tiptree Jr., Alice Sheldon.
Okay.
It's another, that's all, like, there's research on.
C.L. Moore.
Yeah.
I'm going to type this out for you. C.L.
Yep.
Moore.
M-O-O-R-E, yeah, not like Moore Howard. But
Gyro Jory.
What?
Author Gyro Jory, those
Yeah, yeah. But
Black God Shadow.
Specifically the No Woman Born story has a good bit on it. For feminine, it's a dystopia, but it's adjacent.
Okay.
And James Tiptree Jr.
Yeah, I know that name.
It's just one P.
1P.
Taken from a jar of jam, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so these are novels.
They're female science fiction writers.
Oh, okay.
So if we're doing dystopia, there's a lot on Atwood. I would hope by now there's some more on St. John Mandel, but I don't know for sure yet because I haven't checked yet. And you said Octavia Butler, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Octavia Butler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to get in the ballpark
Yeah.
based on what
So if you're interested in following up on feminist methodology pertaining to dystopian fiction, that's the route that you would go. Does that make sense? You can't answer, of course. But I'm pretending like you can. Potential problems. All right. Still, yeah. Thomas, here we come. Plan to explore queer theory. Okay. Interested in queer theory because I would like to learn more about the methodology and how it has evolved from feminist and gender studies, as well as learn how historically. Yeah, that sounds perfect. Several scholars have noted that the borders which what encompasses queer theory are sometimes unclear. Mm-hmm. Thomas, there's one thing you can do on this that you might be able to be actually write an entire bibliographic essay on defining queer theory and provide a progression of its development. That might be the way to go. Yes, Sedgwick is one of the leading voices. Okay, so that sounds good. Jill, it's your turn. Trauma theory, yes. Trauma theory piqued my interest because of my undergraduate work in psychology. 2 areas of study. Immigrant children and immigrant literature. Yeah, I think that'd be great. And your potential problem? Well, you going about this will give you, help you be more informed about the nuances of trauma theory. And so, children's literature, there is some trauma theory regarding children's literature. I don't know how much. I think much of it has to do with Holocaust literature. Yeah. So that looks like a good plan. Alyssa, plan to discuss modern feminism and its effect on society over the years. All right, so I'm mostly concerned about the actual methodology, and you can limit it to its effect on society over the years, but that's going to be way, way too big. It's enormous, in fact, and I don't think you can lasso it in any way regards to modern feminism. You're going to have to define what you mean by modern feminism. And so you might be able to, if you want to narrow it down some, Alyssa, you could do some you could focus in on ecofeminism. I talked about that today with somebody. Who did I talk to about that? Nobody in here? Oh, I know, yeah. What other kinds of feminism? Like, again, the historical material feminism, and so you're going to have to narrow it far down because feminism itself is really, really broad. So if you can, send me an email explaining to me what exactly you want how you want to narrow this, and we can figure it out. We can Skype, or we can talk, or we can email. And here's Emily. Again, Emily, I want you to focus on the actual methodology. I understand the desire to how it can help provide beneficial insight into somewhat adolescents could be struggling with. But I think you could probably do a pretty decent job with considering how feminists, how critics have applied feminist theory to children's literature. And that way you can talk about the methodology yourself. I'm not so concerned about young girls discovering their identity during a time in which their priority is how others see them. That's not what I'm so concerned about. I'm concerned with what constitutes the methodology. And I'll start making a list of what I want to know about your methodology. Still trying to decide why novels. You won't use any novels. This is strictly about talking about the methodology. Disturbing the Universe is definitely a good one. As is her other one, Waking Sleeping Beauty. Those two texts constitute probably the most important feminist approaches, treatments of children's literature, and both are available as ebooks in our library. And Danielle, Feminism and Childhood Studies, okay. All right, the same thing for you, Danielle, as I said just previously. So you can look for feminism and childhood studies, but generally you can do it with feminism, and I don't know what childhood studies brings up right now. It changes depending on institution where it gets taught. So what you would do, you'd have to decide whether you want to focus on, a lot of it's early childhood education, because that's been one of the issues with childhood studies and and those who study children's literature, because it does combine, it goes into the education sector, whereas, and how actual children respond to texts, or how teachers teach for students to become more aware of some of the issues that occur. Yeah.
Not to overcomplicate this particular issue, but since it's, as it applies to childhood studies, wouldn't it be more gender studies than feminism, because gender's the learned behavior?
I don't think so. It could go either way. Gender studies, but gender studies is a really different, a really different methodology. It's based in feminism. It starts from feminism. But as I said about in the last one, that Roberta Seelinger tried Disturbing the Universe, Power and Oppression in Adolescent Literature, and Waking Sleeping Beauty, and it's a feminist text on children's literature. So if you're thinking about children's literature, you can go that direction. If you want to think about a different area, I'd like for you to keep it in English studies, if you can. If you can't, we will need to talk about that. So let me know if that's going to work for you. And let's see. Queer theory. Okay, so Logan, I will give you more instructions for the final essay that this is building toward. And that's what I meant when I said that I would point out exactly what I want you to be looking for, so that you're not following, chasing, I don't know, rabbits, chasing rabbits, to have you focus on a particular area and what I want to see from it. And if I think we'll have time to talk about that. So that's the next thing up. Now we'll go to the live class as opposed to the dead class.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? No, I'm kidding. What am I looking for? What am I looking for? I'm looking for activities. Okay, so let's just start with you, Jolene.
Yay. And if it's crap, like, I was lost as a ball in the weeds. So
Surely was. It's kind of cute.
I tried really hard.
So talk about it.
So the whole reason why I came back for my second master's is because I love young adult literature. I especially love the post-apocalyptic, dystopian young adult literature, so like The Hunger Games, Divergent. You could even go into like the Lunar Chronicles with Cinder and whatnot like that. And then obviously the ones that are a little bit older than that was Zebra Zachariah and The Giver. Like I love all of those. And I was going back and forth as to whether I wanted to approach it through a Marxist lens or whether I wanted to approach it through a feminist lens, because like it seems like vast majority of, at least the ones that I've read, they're all female protagonists, and I find that very interesting.
Maze Runner is male, isn't it?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And The Giver obviously is male, but like the ones that are listed, they're all female.
Maybe that's you.
I know. And so that's why I didn't want to like make an assumption here, because I'm not saying that I've read the vast majority of it by any stretch. But like that's why I ultimately went for the Marxist theory, because I do like looking at power relationships, and I could do that with either female or male protagonist. And so last semester I did look into ideology and how ideology is taught, kind of like what you were talking about earlier with what the main menu is going to be.
If you'll send me an email to remind me, I'm going to send you an article that deals with the three levels of ideology.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. And so I was looking, like I said, I want to look at the power dynamics that are there, and that's why I ultimately decided to go with the Marxist theory, looking specifically. I really love dystopian novels. If I can find enough on post-apocalyptic, that would be even better. But if I can't, then I'll just roll with dystopian. That's kind of where my ball stopped rolling. So I don't know if I need to narrow it further. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, and so I'm just that's what I've got.
Okay.
I was also kicking around something like true crime and looking at true crime that way, but I thought I'd find probably even less than I would on dystopian novels, and that's just where I was looking. I didn't find much about.
Well, you can look at the scholarship on dystopian novels and see what methodologies they use. That's one way to go about this. So, look up Hunger Games.
Well, and I did. That's the article that I mentioned at the bottom.
Okay. The Dark Side of Hope.
Okay. And so I thought maybe I would just focus on the Hunger Games maybe for a little bit and like chase that as far as I could, and then go and look at the other ones that I mentioned and chase those as far as I could. And
I'm going to give you a couple of options. Everybody listen up. There'll be a couple of options here. So you can discuss the straightforward methodology, whatever branch of that methodology you want. Or you can do how other scholars apply a particular methodology to a text. So a text or texts. So for instance, Handmaid's Tale. I know there's a great deal of scholarship. You look at the methodologies they use and discuss that. So you get this kind of an overview of methodologies as pertaining to Handmaid's Tale. Does that make sense?
So it would be you'd be kind of going over multiple methodologies rather than discussing one.
But in one genre.
But within one genre.
Yes.
And so then our bibliographic essay would be like feminist thoughts on the Hunger Games.
Precisely.
Marxist views on the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Precisely.
So, okay.
Woo! I think somebody rang
I found the ball. Okay, I'm good.
Me too.
Okay, thank you. I'm feeling good about that. Okay, and the other way we could approach it is just talking about Marxism and just like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a feeling the second way is easy. The one we just came up with is probably
Yes, that makes so much more sense to me. I did. It's right here. Methodologies used to discuss certain texts.
So yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm in.
We'll you can help me write that up. All of you can help me write that up as one of the options.
Perfect. Thank you. That helps so much.
Abigail, Greg, what do you think about it? About that approach? Did you catch it? What we're talking about?
Just about how the other scholars apply.
Does that sound like something you'd be interested in?
Yes, ma'am. I think that's something that I might think about on that.
And in fact, the text that I talked with you about, the scholarship, you can identify what methodologies they're using and on Westerns. Because you can, it's a little bit of push and a little bit of pull.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know what that means.
It's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Stewart.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that seems to, that seemed to clear a lot up. For
This is my favorite kind of teaching.
I feel so. I can't even tell you. Okay. Cool. Yeah, because Jolene was a legit freaking.
Yes.
But she got the email. She knows.
Okay. All right, Chris.
All right. So, yeah. Oh, it didn't open.
I don't think she clicked it.
I clicked on something, but not it.
A little bit long-winded. Apologize. In reading about all these critical analysis theories, I was pretty drawn to and fascinated by these ideas put forth by Foucault and the way that discourse can become a power that's internalized and force people to behave a certain way. And I wanted to take the idea of that theory and take that methodology and see if I could find where people had studied literary texts like fiction using Foucault's methodology and kind of analyze, see if there was some way to go that route.
Yeah, and I don't even know what kind of methodology I would call that.
So, yeah, and as we discussed, and the more that I read about Foucault and his ideas, it's been applied to so many things down through the years that I found very quickly that I was spiraling into a black hole. So I came and met with you today. And,
and by the way,
we discussed this.
the other book I was thinking of just came to mind, Discipline and Punish.
Discipline and Punish. I know I came across a number of his more prominent texts and kind of the general ideas. I have a handful of like beginning theory books that I kind of read through just to get an overview of everything. Anyway, as much as I like this idea, and I would probably, if I had spare time, read more about it by Foucault, probably more than how his theories have been applied. Anyway, long story short, I scrapped this entirely. So after a discussion today, I'm going to look more into the treatment of Gothic fiction in genre studies. So how it take the lens of genre studies and look specifically at Gothic fiction. And I think that's going to give me a little more focus. It's definitely something that I connect with on a personal level.
And it's fun. I think
it'll be a little more fun.
It'd be really enjoyable.
Not that this wouldn't be fun, but it would be extremely challenging. And I think that really the fiction, I love fiction, right? This is one of the reasons why I'm here. And I desperately wanted to connect this to fiction, and it was very hard to do. A lot of this, the way this methodology has been applied, is to non-literary text using literary criticism methods to these non-literary texts, these things that are non-fiction, right? So the majority of it really didn't work on a number of different levels. But it was interesting to kind of delve into this idea. I'm glad that I went there.
Well, now you'll know it, or know of it, and know some of the
Yeah, I mean, I would like to read more about it. I don't know by any means. I like to say panopticon.
Isn't that great? I love the panopticon.
It's a cool word, and it puts in mind, right, the panopticon itself. The idea of it is very science fiction, dystopian, even though it's a historical reality. When I think of it, I see in my mind kind of this, I don't know, something out of some kind of science fiction construct where you have this circular, multi-level, prison with this central guard tower where everybody can see everybody and everything that's going on at all times.
This
There's a panopticon at the Walmart, for instance. It's like a police thing where you can.
Yes, I've seen that.
And they can see out, but you can't see in. So you never.
It is. You never know if there's somebody in there.
Yeah, they do that in Rockwall too sometimes. They do that at the malls during Christmas time. Keep people's cars from getting broken into. That's the idea anyway. There's probably.
This is by Gary Crew, The Water Tower, a picture book that has kind of what I think of as the panopticon right there. Maybe I'll use that in my picture books this time. I think I will. Okay. So, but you feel comfortable with where you are?
Yeah, I'll probably write it up in this format before I start to write, but I'm also relieved to have confirmed that I just need to have the bibliography ready week after next, not the actual paper.
Yeah, I think we're all a little relieved by that.
Intermediality. Learning how different media accommodate and shape narratives. That tiny little dissertation. Okay, Mike. I don't even know where to begin because I've never heard of this term because it comes from a different discipline and I just haven't encountered it. It sounds fascinating. And if you ever want to drop by and talk with me, then we can talk through some of it and see what you think. And we can talk about it next week when you come to class and go a little bit farther. But yeah, this sounds like a good way to go. And it would help me. Narratology, and narratology. All right, so drop by and see me if you can, and we'll talk about it, or if not, wait until next week. But I don't think you want to wait too long. And there's Alicia. Critical race theory. Mm-hmm.
Experts. Experts.
I got that. Yeah. I think I can help you with the potential problems when you get your the bib going.
Okay.
And I do understand your emotional relationship with the study. I think that will help propel you, though. Okay, so I think you're pretty well set. Do you have any questions about it?
Really, just my potential problems were the only things that I was worried about is the picking of them, because they write a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those are the two names you're gonna see whenever, like literally the two names you will see.
Yep.
If you even put in CRT, like those are just the names.
They're the go-tos.
Just being able to kind of limit that and find out what I'm actually looking for, I think is going to be my biggest challenge is what am I looking like? As I started like reviewing it, I just don't know what I'm looking for yet. But once I do,
you can email me and say, "Is this what I'm looking for?" And I'll try to help you out that way. And that goes for everybody. Is it everybody? No, because I know somebody else is left. Quite a few. There's Shanae. Talk to me.
Well, I mean, it's pretty much the same thing that I discussed in my presentation. I'm wanting to look at romance, the romance genre, as far as how the females are addressed in some of the older work and versus in more contemporary work, because just in my own leisure time reading, you can tell that they're described and they're very different characters than what, and that, so I'm kind of focusing on the feminist narratology, but since I'm looking more at the narrative rather than a whole lot else. And so, and then I included a link to where I discovered the feminist narratology term. So it kind of goes over, and see, I wasn't sure if I needed to use feminist or if I needed
Feminist narratology is fine.
Okay, or if I needed to think more along the lines of the gender studies, but because they seem to coexist.
So the way I see why the way that I just described the other option would really fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really, I just wanted another reason to read trash and romance.
But you don't need to.
I know.
Because it has nothing to do with that.
I'm going to do it anyway. We'll consider it research. This is a research class.
That's right. And you can very likely write your 595 on trashy.
Actually, whatever I started the first time around, my 595 was going to be my novel that I was working on. It was going to be like the creative non-thesis. So we were going to use a chunk of my novel that I have written, and then for a good part of it, and then the other part would be like the research and whatnot on romance novels. So I will probably very likely still do something like that.
So 595 is
595.
Like all me is what I'm asking.
It's all online, right?
It's all online. It's the final project is a bibliographic essay on a topic of your choice.
Ooh, treasure romance.
Exactly. So it's not, so again, Shay, you won't have to read any, you just need to know the scholarship.
I would enjoy it.
So if you do critical race theory, or if you do something regarding critical race theory or a particular author, those kinds of, that's fine. You just, with 595, you have to find an argument because you have more time to develop an argument in that class because all you're doing is research. And so the class consists of writing an early proposal as to what you want to do and identifying some different things that I ask. The second is a bibliography that you produce, and then an annotated bibliography. And does this sound familiar? And then well, the annotated bibliography has an introduction to it that puts all of it together, and then the final project is the bibliographic essay.
So you've been preparing us for something.
You think?
Wow.
And for doctoral students, I'm preparing them for their research chapter. Oh, this is the lit review.
Yeah.
Yep. It's the lit review. So be thinking in those terms. You won't do it 595, but at some point.
No, it's, I don't know, 7 or something, probably.
Yeah, no, it's probably 6 or 718. I think it's 718. You don't have to, you'll have your peoples and they'll help you through it. So you're good. All right, Brian. Gender is performance. Gender Butler. Judith Butler. Yes, gender trouble. Very broad, yes. Keep this clear, okay. Uh-huh. So you can do this kind of reverse as well. You can look and see how other people have applied Butler's gender performance.
Which is probably what I'll do now, because ultimately that's a review section for a paper I want to do anyway, unrelated to anything else. So I need to identify the major scholars of applying Butler to literature.
And how they go about it.
So
So
that I can say, well,
Uh-huh.
now I can do it to basically whatever book or story I want, because I've already done that legwork.
Yes, so you'll see it used in race, as in performing race. You can, anytime that you say, so my application is, when the stuff that I'm working on is performing Christianity. So anything that you can say, performing, it's a potential area. So
And it
performing
would be
gender,
the same.
performing masculinity, performing,
Because you will have already identified the people who have applied, so you could just put performing and then whatever you
Mhm.
want, just keep using the same review, as it were.
pretty much,
Cool.
I think
That's
so.
gonna be really helpful. So that's what I'll do.
My job is almost done. Ta-da! And Alex, talk to us.
We talked about this before spring break, but like there's a lot of scholarship on toxic masculinity, and I feel like part of the conversation is missing if we keep saying this is toxic. Yes, I completely agree, but just identifying is not going to do anything to fix it. So I would like to kind of identify, is there scholarship on positive masculinity?
Masculinity studies, then, is that what you're
yes.
saying? So I wouldn't even call it, yeah, under an umbrella, yes, but it is, if you're gonna be looking at, there is a particular area of study called masculinity studies. And so they're going to be talking about a lot of different aspects of culturally constructed masculinity, how it reveals itself, whether it's toxic or whether it's in some other form. Back in the day when I was getting my PhD, and it was a literary theory class, and we just heard about masculinity studies. And I remember one of my classmates, a feminist, very forthright feminist, was pissed off. She said, haven't those men gotten enough attention at this point? And I've always understood that we have to study all the roles, regardless of ability, race, ethnicity, gender, age. We have a responsibility to think about all of those areas. So I think as humanities, English studies people interested in how to improve the human condition, we're not just interested in studying the human condition, but how to make it work together.
More fair.
Yes, fair and with compassion. In fact, that's a talk I'm giving at my keynote speech that's coming up next week, that I really need to write that thing.
Good, so I'm not the only one that procrastinates.
Oh, I've been working on it. I've been writing it. Truly, I have been writing this in my dreams. I've been writing 2 conference papers for the last, it's very tiring, in my dreams for the last month or so.
If only it would actually like show up on the computer when you woke up, that would be amazing.
Yeah, but it's coming out. It's doing okay. Okay, so just everybody keep me posted. Don't sit on your questions. Send me emails, and I'll probably send it out to everybody as a kind of response, because everybody probably needs that. Yeah? Yeah.
There are no stupid questions. Yeah, I might say immediate.
Yeah, my talk is called Diversity Inside and Outside the Text. And this is what I'm working from. I live in a somewhat conservative small town in Texas. The classes I teach are generally quite diverse in all ways: ethnicity, nationality, gender, age, religion, class, physical and invisible disabilities, and more. Because of that diversity, I have a responsibility to help students navigate the issues they face every day and help them articulate their concerns regarding how they do and do not see themselves represented in the many segments of our culture. To say that I have encountered challenges in the process is an understatement. Thus, I will discuss my experiences regarding those challenges and how we might overcome them, or at the very least, how we might discuss them in productive ways. That includes inside and outside the texts of our experience. So, vague enough so that I can still write it and it'll fit. But yeah, I think that's going to be, I think it's going to be good.
It sounds fascinating.
I'd go.
There'll be about 15 people there. It's all about, I'm doing it for a small undergraduate conference. So, I mean, some of the faculty might come because it's my alma mater, and see what came of their student. All right. So let's put together then that, how we're going to do this assignment.
Because we're still saying 12 to 15 sources, right?
Mm-hmm. That's not it. Need to go to the right one. Where am I? Okay. 50 points, fine. 10's, hold it. So I say 10 is all?
But I think in the essay it's not, it's more than
Okay.
12 to 15.
Okay. So you'll have to find a couple extra.
Because I said,
It's like, what? So what I'm actually looking for is this final paper. Oh man, I'm having so.
That's okay. We got time to learn.
It's the first week back from spring break.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
Well, here.
Still. Yeah, because it's down in my mind.
All right. Identify between 12 to 15 texts. I'm 8 pages long, but prefer longer. For discuss a particular type of methodology.
Is that where we would say or?
Yeah, basically.
You got one more to learn.
12, 15 texts. And then option 2 starts out the same. Option 2, identify between 12 to 15 texts that employ or apply a particular type of methodology
To a text.
to a
To a
text.
single text?
It can be
Text or text.
Or a
to
genre.
a
Yeah, I was
text
thinking genre.
or genre.
It opens it up a little bit.
Mhm. I think much of the say, okay, so definitions might be part of that, right? Yeah. What do the theorists look for? Its origins, material feminism comes from Marxism. What can Yeah, I think those expectations, I can't think quite clearly right this minute, but that seems, sorry.
Well, I mean, we would just do as much as that pretty much outlines what our annotations would be for each particular article. Like if we're doing how the methodologies appear or how people are applying the methodologies.
Yeah.
Like how does this theorist define Marxism? How does it apply? How does he apply? Like
Yeah.
it works the same way. It's just instead of looking at it as an overview and those being our subtitles,
It would be an
our
application.
subtitles are like Marxism,
Mhm.
feminism, and then how each of those authors apply them
Mhm.
would be part of the
Yeah.
annotation.
Yeah, and you might have to limit so that it remains in control, because
Right.
I didn't make this an enormous paper because it's the end of the semester and you've already done a short one.
Right.
So, and you can't, I just couldn't ask you to produce a really enormous, comprehensive.
But I
Yeah, but I
can't. It would be
And
very good.
And if each annotation is 350 words and we have 10 of them, that means we need 2 more. 350 times 10 is 3,500 words before you have an introduction and a conclusion. Like, it's gonna be more
it's gonna
than
be more than
3,000 words.
3,000
It's gonna be
anyway.
fine.
Mhm.
We'll be fine.
Yeah,
You say that
I-
now.
I've got 100 words that weave in those annotations.
Really? But
Sometimes.
The annotation is the paper,
it's yeah.
basically, like,
Well, I guess it depends on how you approach it.
Yeah, it does.
because I was gonna say, my annotation
No, well, if it's an
is-
annotated bibliography, yes.
Yeah, that's what we're
But-
talking about.
I thought you were talking about the essay itself, using the annotations for your essay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, I
I would
plan
say-
to grab the annotation, plop it in my paper, and then integrate them, like make sure they talk to one another.
yeah,
Like add a couple of sentences,
in
finesse.
between.
To use it as like a skeleton.
But it would basically be, because those same questions that you answer in
Yeah,
your
that's-
annotate,
I thought
it's
it was-
exactly what you're gonna answer in the
Like
essay.
Well, that means that you're gonna have to have your outline for your paper written before you do your research for your annotated bibliography.
When I choose the sources that I actually choose, I know what I'm looking for. By that point, you know what you're looking for. Like I would, when I do my annotated book, I know I've already decided what I'm looking for.
And
So it's gonna,
since Dr. Stewart has given us that option too, like I already know what my paper is gonna look like.
Yeah.
I already know that I'm gonna have a Marxist section. I already know I'm gonna have a feminist section. I already know I'm probably gonna have a third section.
I kind of like this
And
a lot
so-
because you get exposed to a lot of
Yeah.
different theories.
And
or
so, and I
applications.
know that like my focus is gonna be primarily on the Hunger Games and probably maybe one other text if I'm just really struggling, but probably not. And then like, so I already know how it's gonna be laid out. So I know that under my Marxist column, I need to make all the folks who talk about Marxism and like how they define it differently, like that's the conversation I'm gonna make the annotations have once I plug them into the paper. And I do that for my transition from one annotation to the next annotation
Mhm.
to kind of lead into it. I don't have to tweak a whole lot because it's already done. It's a bibliographic essay. It's the whole
so
point.
it's the big,
the
and the
essay.
bibs.
in essay form.
That's what it is.
I'm liking this out of the
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it is.
that's what I've always done with my annotated. No, even if I'm not writing a bibliographic essay, my annotated bib, at that point, really, you can go back and skim your resources, but you said everything that you're going to say because she has the questions that were answered. So it's not like you haven't already did. You would have done the research for this annotated bib that you would have to do.
And the bibliographic essay, we're not copying up a whole lot of original things. We're
It's
just,
what other
this is
people
what
are
people
saying.
have said.
Yeah.
This is how they said it. Which
Especially
is
if
exactly
you-
what an annotation is.
If you're looking at Gothic literature, I'm telling you, your essay will be reading when you finish your book essay.
Yeah, I
mean,
guess
your
just the way,
annotations.
and maybe I'm approaching this wrong, but and maybe I'm overthinking it. This is entirely possible too. I've been known to do that. I think so. I'm glad you guys said this. Thank you. Me too. Because I think that what I would want to do first is, I mean, I'll look around and see what scholarship is available, but I think I'll go ahead and write my outline for the paper while I'm doing the annotated bibliography and make sure
That you're
before I get to my paper that I have done all of my research ahead of time. And I'll share with you guys all the mistakes that I made on my earlier papers of this class in my presentation. But I kind of addressed this, and maybe it's not of any benefit to everybody in this class because we've already kind of been down this road, and so these types of things have already been addressed. I guess it's more, but what did I learn along the way here?
That'd be great.
Yeah, but that's great. Thanks.
Well, whenever I have an annotated bib due, you can tell in my essay because my essay is much more organized because I've already organized it, the information. Like I can go back and look, oh, these will go perfect together. When I don't have an annotated bibliography due, you could tell because I'm trying to figure out how to make it happen together.
So you end up spending more time on
You
your
do.
annotated bibliography than you do on your.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
So it's kind of like your outline.
It is. It's your
Certainly,
essay.
yeah.
It's basically the skeleton. All you're really doing after that is like, how can these talk? Like what are they saying and what order should I put them in? And then you just kind of, that's what you take most of your information from. Like you shouldn't have that much change except for two to three more sources. You shouldn't have that much change between the other.
And usually
Well,
then
one
it's
of-
just adding to what you
Yeah, which you've already
said.
said, established.
I think one of the problems that I ran into with the last bibliographic essay, again, I'll probably end up repeating myself here when I give my presentation. It wasn't an annotated bibliography. It was just a bibliography. It was like find X number of sources on this topic and then find themes for this topic, right? The plagiarism, right? And so, yeah, I found a bunch of resources that seemed to fall into those texts, but then when I went to them to try to use them for the paper, I sat down and I had to write my outline. Like I totally put away that bibliography. I was like, okay, I've got to outline my paper. Wrote my outline, and then went back and said, does the research these resources that I found here answer the questions that I need to answer in my outline? And the answer was 50% yes, 50% no. And so I had to go back and do a bunch of research in order to write this last essay. And it was painful.
My thing is like, if an Amber don't fix it, if I've already done this work on the front end,
I'm gonna change my question.
then I'm gonna use it. Like I use
couldn't know because
bibliography.
I found that it was too broad. The research that I did was too broad, and I couldn't
Good job.
focus in on pieces.
Okay. Yeah, this would be.
I annotated with the sections already decided, like you
Oh, you
were talking
did?
about. What I did was I annotated one article, and then when I did the next article, I annotated it with my previous annotation in mind, and that's how I build a conversation, rather than go back and change what I had already picked based on what I decided I wanted to do later. I sort of just forced it to have a conversation.
I have this, I've read it.
You will
it's
sit here,
easy.
you will talk to each other.
Because
You will work.
I will not leave this room.
Exactly.
Talking to your paper or your freshman?
Yes.
Is there a difference? I don't know.
Uh,
Right, we will talk to
It'll
that.
be easier. if you do the annotated bibliography right, the essay will be done.
It'll be done.
Like you wouldn't feel like you're writing another essay. That's why I have a love-hate relationship with annotated periods because of that. Because I feel like I've written an essay.
Well, I guess you get into blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of putting it into a prose format.
Teachers know that.
Exactly.
That's why they get them.
It's
Because
kinda
they know
like-
you're not gonna read the articles.
Well, it's kind of like a cheat sheet. Like, you know, we allow kids to make cheat sheets to bring in to the test, and they never look at the cheat sheet because the cheat sheet was to make them study.
Right, the creation of the cheat sheet.
Yeah.
And study.
The annotated bibliography is your cheat sheet.
Yeah. You're gonna pull it directly from It's-
And she said in the assignment that we can copy paste.
So you're gonna pull it directly.
Yep.
If you don't pull it directly from me, you're doing way more work than you have to.
Smarter, not harder, man. Smarter, not harder.
I'm so glad we had this conversation. Thank you so much.
Good. So a bunch of people are feeling better. Abigail, is anything becoming clearer for you? On
I'm
this?
still trying to narrow it down and find something I can stick with. But yeah, this is actually really helping me figure out where I need to look.
Okay. So here's how and this is only on the web version right now. I need to get it over to the other one. Identify between 12 to 15, this is option 1, 12 to 15 texts that discuss a particular type of methodology. You've already done that, blah, blah. Copy, paste, blah, blah. For instance, you might consider scholarship that uses, well, is scholarship plural or singular? It's plural. It's plural. In this case, scholarship that use ecofeminism as the methodology. That would be a period. That was split attention because I was listening to you guys talk, trying to do this. You're going to need to make sure that you identify the go-to scholars for this is a limited Bib essay. If you're discussing gender performance, there are a couple of scholars, Butler and another scholar who preceded her who never gets any credit. True word.
Find that one.
Yeah. That you should include. Option 2. Now, does that make pretty good sense? Okay. Option 2, you might be interested in how Butler's theories regarding gender performance scholars apply Butler's theories regarding gender performance in a number of areas, performing race, performing Christianity, performing masculinity, and so on. Or you might consider scholarship written on a particular author text. You can bet there will be feminist, Marxist, gender studies.
Yeah, I can do it. But that's a lot. Either way.
Well, I'm thinking like back with the Hunger Games because Rue
She was
and.
that person that she got with.
But wait, but there's another one, like the other guy that was from her.
He does too.
Only 2 of them filmed.
I'm just talking about timing.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm saying. I can talk about that.
I'm like, But the main guy, he's the guy who ends the Hunger Games. He's the person of color.
So I don't feel bad about putting this. This is a different class than any I've ever taught. You're seeing, I don't feel bad about this kind of discussion today where we're going over really, individual, instead of me saying, well, this is what this looks like and, providing a lecture, because you get the opportunity to watch teaching happen and to think about that. And I think that's a good thing. And you can think about how you wouldn't do it. For instance, you might not want to, create assignments right at the moment, or fix assignments right at the moment. But I need to. So here we are.
I have my own opinions about the assignments.
Do you have some trouble with that? I know some of you have some trouble with the.
With the we?
Uh-huh.
I just picked one and committed, man.
Yeah.
Like, we all
Pick
got to
commit.
commit.
Okay,
Maybe
look,
commit.
I feel like it can't be go-to if we didn't all go to it.
So if you didn't go to Delgado on CRT, then whoa, he's not a
That's the
go-to.
only thing that pops up. He will pop up. We know Delgado will pop up. But this one, Dr. Stewart. I've never had it. All the assignments in here, even assignments that I struggle with, it's like rookie mistakes, things that I could, you know what I mean? This one, I was extremely confused. I didn't know what to do.
Like our first chat went crazy.
I changed number 1 and 2 more than anything, because if I changed number 1, I had to change number 2. So I had 4 different people. I said, please don't let the first person I changed be the right person, you know, because the final one that I submitted is the thing that I committed to. I was extremely like, how is this go to if I'm not finding it? Like,
It was not as easy as
finding
Rebecca Moore Howard.
Yeah.
No, was not.
So what did you learn from this process?
That not
There
nearly
is
as
no
many
go-to.
people wrote on we as I figured would have in the first place.
That too.
What's that?
Looking by specific, I was saying before, it was because I knew the book, I knew what character to look for to find the feminist take on it, right? But if it was just a book you were flying blind on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was blind. I had never heard of this.
I had not.
And I still don't know that I got the book right.
I don't think any of us did.
Somebody in here, right?
Approaching the topics that you're researching from different viewpoints, and we all have different viewpoints and different backgrounds, will result in different sources coming up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and different search terms, you know.
Yeah.
There is that part. A lot of it's just a matter of looking at works cited bibliography.
Yeah, I did
I
that.
did.
We all
did.
Quite literally, list. Yeah.
Well, like, because I pulled up
What's the answer?
8 different articles and I looked across which ones are the same, because I had them like, right? And I found one book that was in all 3. And so I committed to that one. But then after we all submitted it, I talked to them and they're like, that's not the one we got. And I'm like,
Yeah.
And so but I found it in 4 sources and it kept appearing. So did I.
Oh
And they
my
did
God.
too. And so I'm like, I don't know. I picked one and committed, man.
Okay, so what lesson did you learn from this?
I'm gonna take the grade
You're
out.
tricky.
I'm going to continue to work alone in the silence of my room.
My phone was blowing up.
I mean,
I compared this.
I feel
Somebody
like,
else is going to make me second guess what I second guess.
yeah, this should have been a team assignment. This should have been a group assignment.
Yeah, 'cause we were
And then
all
just said,
trying to
I
figure out how
chose
we
this one because blah, 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 blah. And then you be like, no, that's incorrect because blah. Like, I didn't have anybody to talk to. And I feel like that would have helped because
we didn't want to.
they committed to not plagiarizing or colluding. I mean, we,
as much as we did. We all really thought
You don't
about
want to
it.
bring Mueller in on this.
I said, I was just like, okay. So we literally waited till after 2 when it was late. And everybody's like, okay, what you put? What did you? Because it really made me. I went to Google. I went to Google Scholar. I went to our database. I went to Tech Database because that's where I went to school too. And I still was equally as frustrated, no matter where I looked. And I just didn't know what to say or what I should put in. I just put Semyatins we. And just first I saw that, and then I said, nope, that's not coming up. Then I think after I found like an author that I felt was right, I'll do both of those, and see what come up. Oh, okay, what's 3? Not enough, I need 4. So then I just kept doing that, and at the end, I still wasn't confident. I said, I'm 100% sure what I chose was probably not a scholarly whatever, but I said, it's in everything that I've read. So
We all just committed.
I'm a rogue.
pick.
And I changed it.
If you found it,
Yeah,
you'll find the next articles
Yes.
don't have it.
yes.
When you were sure it was this
This
book,
one,
and then it's not in the next 3 articles you pull up, and it's like, well, maybe it's not the book anymore.
And what
that's
does
what I
it
thought.
tell you about those scholars? It can tell you several things about those scholars doing that research. Depends on when the text originated.
They didn't.
Yes.
If it wasn't there for them to see it.
That's true. It could be
Did the
two things.
legwork with the book, and right, like it's like what happens with Derrida, right? If the original people who started applying it to literary criticism, right, you don't have to go read Derrida now. You can use this guy's reading of it to apply, which is bad.
Bad behavior.
Bad, but they do it. When the book disappears, that's probably why they're working with the people who already used the book.
Yeah, my research methods professor, no, my theory professor, which was basically methodologies, she said, you will be reading the original stuff. So we read Foucault, and we read Lacan, and we read Saussure, and it was really hard.
Because it's hard.
Because it's hard. Yes. So, yeah, we did that. But yeah, when I get really annoyed when I see articles that discuss the same topic I've discussed, and they've been published after, like 2 years after mine was published. That's really wrong. They're reinventing the wheel and claiming it as their own.
Is this an assignment we can revise, or are you gonna tell us the answer?
I'll tell you the answers. I have to find the answers.
Oh, I see.
I have them somewhere.
Well, these
Or
are
I'll have to do the research.
I figured this was a lesson in rabbit holes because
Rabbit holes, true.
I was like, if all of us came up with somebody else,
I told
You were right.
If
I was
they're
right.
really, that one guy, I was like, I ended up with other things to worry about over the weekend, so I just kind of went, okay, submit.
Yeah, life-changing things. Well, and, yeah, go ahead.
I had a harder time finding specific information, as I recall, and a lot happened. I mean, I didn't get pregnant, but a few days for me too. So
Greg's
my weekend was a little bit busy, but
Not quite.
anyway, yeah. I mean,
Oh.
with the Zamyatin, is that how you say it?
Zamyatin. Doesn't that sound like Russian?
It took me some searching. Once I found Renee Girard, the rest of that was fairly easy. I thought
Yeah,
the last part-
that part.
part.
I know that was
You-
easy.
You tricked us.
It was the earlier.
You should have led with that one.
Yeah, the earlier one I had a little bit of a hard time with. Ultimately, I went with, I'll just let it out of the gate. I mean, the assignment's turned in, right? I went with the collection of scholarly essays as the go-to
Heard?
book.
Gary Heard?
Yeah. But now there were two. I mean, I don't know if I'm right or I'm wrong, but I found references to that book. People used various essays from that book in various other essays.
Yes.
And that book came up time and time and time again. So I considered that the
Okay, that makes me
go-to
feel better. Thank you.
for scholarly analysis on wheat, right? There was a second book, though, that came up fairly frequently after the 80s, the late 80s. And I considered that was my first pick. But then the more I read, the more I saw this other book come up. And I thought, well, he may be like an emerging go-to, but he's not.
I just
the
made
go-to.
sure all my MLA was perfect.
Me too.
Ladies, I was not gonna lose those points.
Yeah. I said, I'm not gonna lose points there. Because I said 20 points. So if I'm wrong, this is half the assignment. Like, half the assignment is gone if I'm wrong. So I was like, just I started adding stuff up. I said, well, the assignment only worth like 60 points and all. I'm like, it's 60 and 100. Like, no. It was that. You can't.
I think we all overthought it a lot.
No, you didn't overthink it.
Okay.
And considering the limited amount of scholarship on Zamyatin, on we, considering the importance in science fiction studies and dystopian studies, how important that is.
It's hardly even in that journal. It's hardly even in science fiction.
Yeah, that text, the go-to scholar text, should be identified in every essay, somehow or another.
Oh, then we must have all gotten it kind of wrong.
Yeah.
Or you all got it kind of right. Because you can see how that might work.
Well, the one I chose was in all the essays that I read. But I didn't consider it like a go-to because of when it was written. And I was like, because that made all of the other ones that I chose had to be written after it. And I guess that's what really made it hard was I just was really confused about what, I was like, what does she mean by go-to?
So
like,
if you were writing an essay on Zamyatin's We, would you include both books?
Yeah.
There.
You have
Then
to.
I'd go to the source, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for
Precisely.
me, my determining factor, besides the fact that I saw that book everywhere in like every single,
It wasn't always the same article from that book.
But it was the book.
always that book.
and the wording in the assignment, it did not say a go-to author. It said a go-to scholarly work. And so I'm like, so it doesn't have to be one author. So I took it broadly and thus went with the critical essays. So it makes me feel better. Okay, I'm glad at least one other person thought like me.
If you submit multiple assignments, do you only see like the last one that's
So I can look at earlier ones.
Because I submitted two. I submitted two. One had one author, and the other.
So she's hoping one of them is right.
I said, could be. If she can see both, I hope she look at both. They have two partially different authors. It was. I couldn't tell. I couldn't see. Like, and I made sure that I did this. So first, after I found like an author, I just went back and I just hit the Control F to see if they were in the works cited. And if they were, I said, okay, you on the road. You know, you finding something.
Precisely.
Yeah,
That's what I do. I Control F to everything.
So that's something else that you learned. Control. Well, I mean, you knew to do it, but why and when you would do it.
It's invaluable.
Because if I see, so I wrote an article on, it's called In the Ellison Tradition, Invisibility and Adolescent Literature. And I was doing a review, I was reviewing a whole bunch of scholarship on Robert Cormier, and that's what my essay dealt with in part. And so when I saw this essay for my review, I did a Control F, Stewart, not there. And she's talking about Ellison and invisibility and adolescence. By golly, you'd think she'd mention me. So I use it for that purpose, but you know, I also use to see, are they talking about the right people? Because I think I told you the story of the review that somebody sent me a manuscript to review for publication, and they didn't do any of the legwork on reading on scholarship of the giver. They ignored everything that children's literature scholars had published. And I sent it back and said, no, because this is not by any means comprehensive. That person went back and did the scholarship, read the scholarship, included it in the article, and then took my article to task, saying that I was wrong. And this person did not know I was reviewing that article. And so children's literature sent it to me and said, yeah, this one isn't very kind to you, but can you review it anyway? And so I did, and it was really good. It was on a short list for an award winner, but it was wrong.
That's right.
It was well written, but it was wrong.
It was wrong. Yes. So I know who the go-to scholars are on The Giver by heart, because I've done that work. And I know lots of go-to scholars in different areas. Roberta Seelinger Trites, feminism in children's literature, psychoanalysis, especially Lacanian, that'd be Karen Coates. And so you gotta get those cornerstone scholars. They will be modified as, as time goes on and more people develop more ideas, but you've got to show you've done the legwork somewhere or another. If it's in an endnote, it doesn't, as long as you show your stuff in that regard, else you can't be respected for doing the research you need to do. And by the time you write a dissertation, you've done the research. By the time you do a thesis, you've done the research. 595, same thing. So you will be there. Greg, what are your thoughts on the assignment you just turned in on we and scapegoating?
It was ditto to what everyone. I knew I was going out of town, and I tried to work really hard before I left to get that turned in. So I think I spent. I said, my goodness, what I can't find it. It was a challenge. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and I wanted it to be.
And you know what I was thinking as I was doing it? I was thinking to myself, Dr. Stewart is just a genius. The way she makes us go through some higher level thinking skills and try to go through and sift. This one assignment really expanded us to so many other things, and really, made us think and figure out things on our own, and I liked it.
Yeah, that's my intention, because research is generally a pretty solitary activity. Mm-hmm. You spend hours in front of a screen reading paper and many, many words, and nobody else is there to get you there. Did you find anything out by accident that you kind of want to remember or think, oh man, I'd like to look at that someday?
We were talking about a couple of them from Gerard that we thought were very interesting.
If that's even the right answer to that other question.
Well, we knew that.
Because the two works, like he has this whole other memetics I didn't include because that's enormous, but it wasn't about violence in any way, shape, or form. But fairy tales, the application for that, the application to the lottery, right? These were things that I was flagging, renaming on the desktop. Read this ASAP, just for file that for later. But again, not having read the Gerard stuff yet, it wouldn't. It's just swoosh, so it set up a bigger project. It's another rabbit.
And so
talk about with Foucault. It's just now we got a Gerard rabbit.
And his can be, both of them can be pretty scary.
Yeah, he's dealt with religion. I saw a lot of religious stuff.
Because scapegoating comes from religious tenets.
And I said, let me see what you said about Jesus.
It was a scapegoat.
I didn't go that far. I didn't want to say what he said about anything because I know what'll happen. I just said, now let's see who's using them and put them on the list, and all this I'll read later. I can't right now.
Yeah. So part of what I wanted you to also get from this is to keep your mind open to other possibilities as you go along, because you're always going to encounter some things that you won't ever get to explore, but you would like to. And it's lodged back there someplace. And you might or might not be able to pull it out at any given time. Abigail, what was your experience?
I really thought the second part was pretty easy for me, but the first part had me going for quite a while. I was just trying to find out if I had the right kind of trail, I guess. I don't, I just was trying to find somebody that was consistent, and I kept feeling like maybe I was just in some kind of like Twilight Zone Google search.
I frequently send students to the Twilight Zone. Yeah. Okay. And also, one of the things I wanted you to come away with, I can tell you research is hard. But until you got involved with the WE research, you really saw how challenging it can be. And you need to know that. Everybody needs to know that. It doesn't do any good for me to say research can be really hard. Yeah. And that you can find the results and you can get there. Maybe by accident, maybe by happenstance, but you can get there. So just those are some of the lessons that I wanted you to take away. And I think you got them. Pretty much.
So is it 100 if we got the lesson?
Right. It's not about who the go-to was. Did we actually follow through?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very much about follow through. Very much about follow through.
Follow through. Kobayashi Maru. Go in knowing you're gonna lose and you just go anyway.
And you just do it anyways. Oh. I sat down for too long, apparently. Okay, so this is, what is this? And I say so too much.
Oh, you need to save that.
Save.
Or publish.
Save. Update. Nope. That's not up.
Also her review.
Oh, yeah, she's
It
already
didn't
saved.
look
There we
like
go.
it.
Oh, it says published.
Okay. Well, why does it not have returns like it's supposed to? For heaven's sake. Man, there were lots of returns. There. Control or shift return is how you do it. Or enter. So are you good now on where you need to be? Everybody's feeling pretty comfortable, or for the most part. Stay in touch with me on this. Don't let it drop. Because I'm here, and I'm here almost all day Wednesday, for sure, and I'm here other days of the week, except when I'm not. 3, 9, 10. So I've got to get that straightened out for you, but I'll do that when I get home. It's a while coming up, but I'll talk up to you about the ethics of research, what you'll be doing here. What we do has ethical dimensions to it. It becomes even more multidimensional when you're working with human subjects. So for instance, if you're doing a study of composition students, well, I can give you my example. For my doctoral work, for my 5th chapter, we had to actually teach a class and report our findings. We had to come up with a theory, or what's that thing called? Not a theory. We had to come up with a hypothesis, basically, of how we thought students would react or what they would do. So mine, I introduced ideology to the classroom, and I chose texts that were would be kind of contentious for them, maybe. So The Stinky Cheese Man. Anybody read that?
Yeah.
I never anticipated that somebody would be really angry at that book because those stories don't end like they're supposed to end. So she doesn't get the prince. The ugly duckling stays ugly. And one of my students just didn't like that and found it almost offensive. And she was, I can't remember, this has been so long ago, I can't remember a great deal of what she said about it. But it was pretty frequent that she would critique texts in that kind of way, because she had an idea about how children's literature should be, and if it didn't fit into that paradigm, if it didn't fit into, is it paradigm or paradigm?
Paradigm.
Paradigm. I like paradigm better, but paradigm. That's why I get it confused. Then she rejected it, pretty much. Or if I brought in concepts regarding feminism, not all students wanted to hear about that. They thought I was being radical in some way or another, because who needs feminism in children's literature? Who needs to talk about that? And so it was a study of, basically, I kept a journal. My advisor came in and watched a couple of the courses, and I wrote it up. I had to use disguise their identities, and I had all permissions necessary. Students knew that I was going to use their work. They knew that they didn't have to let me use their work, that I could exclude them. But the thing that comes up a lot of times with research and doing this kind of subject research is reciprocity. So what did my subjects get from this? I got data from them that I could use in a dissertation. What did they get? Or when somebody studies a culture, a subculture, or a certain group, and interacts with them, what does that group receive in return? Because sometimes it's a matter of not that they don't get the credit that they should, the subjects of the study. They could be misrepresented because of different perspectives. So the whole notion of reciprocity plays a really important role, especially when you have workers or people doing like psychological studies, piecework, social work, those kinds of things, or looking at socioeconomic status of a group of people and how they have difficulties making ends meet. So that person, those people, don't get necessarily anything in return, and the researcher gets all the riches. Well, it's not riches, but I mean, yeah, I got a job. That's what I got. That's my riches.
This is like the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks.
Exactly. You want to explain that?
So in the 1950s, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
An African-American woman named Henrietta Lacks went in for an exam, and a doctor took a sample of like a cancerous growth in her uterus, did not tell her what he was doing, did not tell her he was taking the sample or that he was going to study it. And the cancer cells continued to grow and divide. They didn't die. They're still alive today, 60-something years later. And all of this research in medicine and science has come from this. And she didn't know any of this was going on. Her family didn't know about it, even decades later. And it poses a lot of ethical questions about the way the research was conducted.
Right.
Right, because they use those cells to create all these different kinds of immunizations and cures and whatnot like that.
The polio vaccine.
Buckets of money.
And her family can't even afford medical insurance.
Exactly.
And it's just a travesty.
And hers was such a rare I mean, it just didn't happen that these cancer cells would continue to live.
Mhm.
And the question is actually whether those cancer cells have contaminated just about any other tests
Right.
possible,
They just don't die.
because they just don't die. So that was one of the concerns. And can you think about other areas of ethics, dealing with ethics and research?
In education, like not just, in the college sphere, but also in the high school. Like, because then you're also dealing with, underage, so you've got to get parents involved and their parents okay and all this other good stuff. It's a hot mess trying to get permission to do anything like that in the high school or even lower, I'm sure. But by the time they're in high school, many of their parents are more hands off anyway, because like they're becoming adults or whatever. But the kids are still not adults, so they can't sign off on it. Their parents have to, and especially in like low socioeconomic, it's so difficult to get the parents to do things because they've got their own concerns, like you were talking about, like if they're working 3 jobs or if they're,
or they don't have the money,
or they don't have it's just hard.
Yeah. All right, so let's go away from the human subject into other areas of ethics of research. Any idea about that?
Might still count as human, but a concern I have is being too entrenched in a particular ideology and attempting to teach, right, literary criticism from the perspective of this is the only school that I use. So can you objectively teach the other, can you teach masculine and right studies if you're that feminist example that you gave earlier? Can you cross that bridge?
So here's where that would come into research. It just popped in and out. Because you're talking about ethics of teaching, but not necessarily the ethics of research.
Well, wouldn't it apply to the making sure we give the proper credit to, like citations and whatnot for our own research that we're doing on whatever subject it is that we're working on? If we take their ideas, that's clearly not ethical. So in order to remain ethical, we would need to attribute our knowledge to their work.
I think you can say that we do have a reciprocal kind of relationship. I provide you with information, you provide me with information. I teach you and you teach me. So what if I come up with this, we're talking in class, and I come up with this idea as a result of our discussions? How do I credit that? And how do I ethically present that research at a conference or in a paper? Is that a problem?
I don't think so. I guess that's so touchy because like what we just did today in coming up with the ideas that we're about to do for our essay, I don't think anybody's going to attribute that to the class.
It is, but it was entirely.
But it was, yeah.
Yeah, so it was, what is that, when you do cooperative work? Collaboration. Yes, it was a matter of collaboration.
That conference paper I did my presentation here on has a footnote thanking the professor who taught me how to do the stuff that I had to apply, like applying across a genre or taking things from a different genre and methodology. I didn't know any of that. And that paper has a footnote on it. And when I used it, I don't think I used it here, but the schools that I used that, when I applied for PhD programs, that footnote stayed. And I know what that looked like, thanking a professor for assistance in a paper when there's only my name on it, but I didn't touch it. I left it.
That was ethical behavior.
Right, I mean, so it's different than what you're talking about, the collaborative, because I think we all agree to some extent in having the conversation that we are contributing and we all weighed in on what the assignment is now. So we benefited in a way that we understand it better, thus we're gonna do better on it. So.
Do you know how often I give away ideas
Probably
to students? A lot. Some things that I'd like to follow up on, but I don't.
That's gotta be.
Sometimes it is. I know that I don't have enough time in the world.
True, but the good ones, it's like, oh man, yeah.
Uh-huh.
There's a patent pending after everything you said.
Patent pending. Yeah, I've come up with phrases and said, you take this and use it and apply it and work it. And they do. You know, it's their own application once we come up with a term. But yeah, there are ideas that I give away. And I literally say, it's yours, take it. You don't have to credit me with this. And I've forgotten all of them by now. So there is that part. Well, you're going to encounter a lot of things regarding research, and you can encounter stuff on medical, but keep it to English studies. You know, there's always a big question on medical ethics. For instance, who decides what gets digitized or put in an archive? There's some ethics to that, because guess who's going to first probably get stuff in there? Who's first going to be? Well, you think about
Whoever is digitizing it, or whoever's archiving it.
Well, Shakespeare's got a lot of stuff digitized now. You know, all the
big names.
All the big names, mostly a lot of white men. It's only recently that people of color have found, have databases available. Or it's now that, so for instance, Harlem Renaissance, what was it? That little brownie, the Brownie book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's been available for quite some time online, digitized the whole series of the Brownie book. It's for children of color. And Du Bois was the one who was edited it. But somebody was trying to do research on archives in Latinx materials last semester and couldn't find anything. Why is that? It's coming around, but why is that? When you think about who gets archived and who doesn't, who's important and who's not, and what's important about them and why. Those are some of the questions. I think you'll encounter quite a few, because I did the search myself to make sure it was doable. So what can I do? I do the searches myself to make sure that you can get there.
You at least don't give us impossible tasks.
And I found the book. I found the book at home on the extra credit. I do have it. I found it on the, what's the name?
Flannery
This is the
O'Connor.
Flannery O'Connor.
response to criticism.
I attempted to look at that.
I haven't looked at it yet, but
I'm going to do, since I have the text now, I'm going to do a word search to see if it's even available. And it may not be, and if it's not, I'm going to take it off and I'll try to come up with something else. Because I don't want you to spend crazy amounts of time on it. You have other things to do. All right. So you've got to the next couple of weeks. Yes?
Alicia just pointed out that at the top it says 10 articles and at the bottom it says 8 articles.
Ten. Hold it. What's the 8. I'm going to go with 8.
Good call.
But you meant to say 6, right? No.
Totally this time.
it kind of looks like a 3 a little bit.
You guys crack me up. That's why I love this call.
That's funny.
But if you look at it just one, two.
If you drink 3 tequila shots, you will see 0.
Oh, hey. I can't do that right now.
That's all it
I got
takes.
you on the skill.
Alright, you can do my shots.
We'll split them.
There, I get smashed so fast.
What college did you go to?
Stephen F. Nacogdoches.
I'm surprised.
I'm straight laced, sister.
It's good.
I get ridiculous.
All right, questions? Comments? Did you want to throw rotten tomatoes at me?
No.
This last slide, right?
We do like you enough to not do that.
Okay, I'm glad to know that. I then guess we have spent another several hours conversing about research.
Yeah.
And I think it was pretty productive.
Yes. Things make more sense to me now.
I'm
Yeah,
happy.
me too.
I've made a lot of people.
I felt much more.
We greatly appreciate you making us happy.
Yeah, we're not even.
So I guess I'll see you next week. You'll do a presentation.
All right, so for those of us don't have any presentations next week, we don't have an assignment yet. Do you?
Just start working
Sweet,
on that
right?
annotated bed.
That's right.
Yeah, that's fine.
See how I do that?
I'm gonna try real hard to do that.
Right, I'm gonna try real hard not to procrastinate.
Well, it's 350 words per annotation, so it'd be unwise. to
I don't know though, ask him to do my most brilliant work the night before it's due.
That's funny. All right.
Aren't you the one who told me don't tell the professor when you do that?
I don't have a filter anymore.
Greg and Abigail, it was nice visiting with you this evening, learning from you. And next week it is.
Yes, ma'am. We'll see you next week.
We'll see Greg in
Okay,
we'll see you.
class next
Bye.
week.
Oh, wow. No, actually, we could enjoy it.